Welcome. Today's webinar is on multi-tenancy in Totara, which is really exciting. So welcome, and I'm glad you could make it today. My name is Dr. Tammy Frame. I'm the CEO of EClass for Learning. Here is my contact information, and I'd be happy to connect with you and learn about your use cases and what you're trying to do with multi-tenancy. If you were unable to come today to today's webinar live, but are watching the recording, feel free to contact me with any questions you might have. Okay. EClass for Learning is a full solution e-learning provider. So we can do everything end to end that you would need to get your e-learning up and live. We support open source LMS solutions, including Totara. We're a full Totara partner. We do course development. We are excellent at onboarding and support. We can help with advanced reporting and analytics. We have e-commerce options available to you. We can host solutions for you. We do systems integration, and we can also do programming and customization that you might need as well. So feel free to contact us with any of those services if you are in need of help. Today we are doing Zoom. And so there is a question and answer area. And if you have questions and you are here live today, I encourage you to submit those. That makes the webinar a lot more lively and fun. If we don't know the answer, we'll look into it and get back to you and give the group the answer. So feel free to utilize that. Okay, with that, I'm going to move to our demo site next. And while I get set up, all right. The first thing we should probably talk about is, what do I mean by multi-tenant anyway? So multi-tenant is where you have one Totara site, and it's sort of the umbrella, but you could have different sections of that site for, say, different clients or different groups. They could have a different identity or look. They could have different dashboards. They could have different content, different information, a different catalog that they see, different reports that only have people in their group. So those are what I would consider to be multi-tenant. So it's under one umbrella, one site. You didn't have to purchase a separate Totara site for each group, but they can definitely look and feel different within the groups or be separated. Okay, so within multi-tenancy in Totara, I'm going to show two methods today. I'm going to show one method that works on Totara 12 and forward, or older versions of Totara. And then the new multi-tenancy built into the core platform for Totara 13 going forward. Okay, so those are the two types that I'll show. I'm going to start with the kind in Totara 12 plus. And in that one, I would say the differences are there's more steps in setting it up. But the advantage might be that there's a little more control. And in the other one, it's a little more user-friendly, but you might be giving up some control. So you might say, well, which one should I do? It depends on your use case. And what I have found with my clients that I'm working with and set up, I often set it up both ways and test them out, and then pick one that's fitting the use case, or if I run into something that won't work in the new Totara 13 plus because I need more control or more rules, then I might revert to the old method of doing it in the Totara 12 plus method. So like I said, we'll start with the Totara 12 plus method. I think the best way to start that method is with the audience, which is sort of powers both methods actually. So when you go to the quick access menu, you can go to audiences. Okay. And then from there, you can add a new audience, and we'll call this practice tenant audience. Okay. And then you can figure out if you're going to do a set one where maybe you already have certain people that you're going to upload with the CSV or cherry pick, or maybe there is a dynamic rule, maybe something in their profile that will automatically put them into that audience for you. Okay. And then we can go to save changes. Okay. Um, all right, so we've successfully added this, and now because I picked set, it wanted me to pick my users, which I'm not going to do. All right, from there are some things right in here that you could do. You could pick out learning or courses that this tenant will see. You can also do visible learning, which means things that they would see on their, that would be shown on their course catalog. So that's how you could get a tenant catalog going. Another thing you can do is have a customized dashboard that they land on when they arrive. And so when they first log in, you could have a tenant dashboard branded just to them. It could have that client logo on it, the client colors, maybe certain content or resources from their HR department that for that client or their sales department that's unique to them. So what you would do here is go to Manage Dashboards, and you can create a dashboard, and we could call this Practice Tenant Dashboard. Okay, and then we're going to say that it's only available to, wait for it, our practice tenant audience. Okay, so then you can have unlimited dashboards, and you can assign that dashboard to your tenant audience. From there, you can customize and make the branding and the information and the look. You could also clone a I think one of the options that I kind of blew past is you can say copy from a different dashboard. So if you're only changing, let's say, the logo or the banner across the top, all the rest of the content is pretty similar. That might be a faster, more efficient way to do it. Okay. You could also go to courses and categories, and maybe you're going to have a category that only that audience can see. And then you can have courses within there. The other thing that I think is cool is once they're in an audience, you can filter reports by that audience. So I have an example. Let's try this one, course completion. And here I can filter, is a member of this audience. Then what I can do is, okay, so if I search that, that's probably not going to be anybody because I haven't put too many people in there. But I could save this search as my test tenant audience. And then I could make this available in a couple different ways. I could make a block with this report in the tenant. I could make that block only visible by certain people, let's say their manager. I could schedule this report and have it emailed to certain individuals at certain intervals. So there's a lot you can do with the audience. Okay, so that is one way you can set up the Totara 12 multi-tenant audiences, and you have a lot of controls over rules and how that's going to be and things of that nature. Okay. Now we're going to transition into what does multi-tenancy look like if you use the built-in tools, the built-in new multi-tenancy in Totara 13 Plus. Well, the first thing that you have to know is in Totara 13 Plus is you'll go to tenants, but that may not be visible because tenants first have to be enabled. So you would go under configuration, configure features, and there should be, let's see if I can enable multi-tenancy support, and you check that. And the default is no, so you may not see it if you don't do that. So then from here, you can go to tenants, and this is the tenant menu where you can set up a tenant. One other thing that I think is important, some disclaimers when you're deciding if you're going to do the old method or the new method. There's some vocabulary to understand in the multi-tenant Totara 13 Plus. One thing to understand as a rule is that each user can only be a member of one tenant, okay? But you can be a participant in other tenants. And so I think that's an important thing to think about and consider when you're deciding which method to use for your use case and whether or not that matters. Here's another important thing that might inform your decision on whether to use the old method or the new method is when you set up the tenant in using the new tools, it's automatically going to make you a tenant audience. And that's really cool because that's going to save you time and steps. But that audience will not allow you to add dynamic rules. So if you have certain funky things to automatically get people into that tenant that are important to you, you might want to go with the old method because you're going to have more control over that audience. Okay. All right, so let's get started. I do think the new method is a lot more fun and a lot more user-friendly and a lot easier, especially if people are new to Totara. It's far less complicated than what we just did. So you would go to the quick access menu. You would go to tenants. Okay, and you can see I have some different tenants set up here. I'm going to go to add a tenant so you can see what that looks like. And I'll put Tammy's test tenant. Okay, and then you have to have some kind of an identifier. Remember in Totara, anything with a red asterisk is required. This is not required, so I don't have to put a description. If I ever wanted to suspend the tenant, I could. Now it's going to set up a whole bunch of things for me at once. So it's going to set up a category in my courses that all the courses for the tenant will be underneath, and only people in that tenant can get to those. So they want to know, what are you going to call that tenant category? Category. It's also going to automatically make us an audience, so we don't have to go and do that. And it's also going to make a default dashboard for this group, so you don't have to go behind the scenes and do that either. So it's a nice time saver, especially if you have a lot of these. This is where the clone dashboard is. So if you have one as a master, you can use that. All right. Oh, okay. So it wants only lowercase. All right, let's try that and see if we can go forward. Terrific. All right, let's just check some of all of this out. So if I go to the quick access and I go to courses and categories, we now see a category and I'm ready to create courses that will go just to the people in this tenant, unless they are also a participant. But the members of this will automatically get it. Okay, let's go to our audiences next and see if we've got that set up. Sure enough, but notice that this is a set audience, not a dynamic. So I can't apply dynamic rules to it, nor can I change it. So that is one limitation as to why you might want to do the other method. Okay, let's look at reporting quick. There is in Totara 13 a very nice filter. So let's go back to, and you might have seen it before, that course completion. So before I could sort by the audience. Now I can search by my tenant. So let's do test. And then, yeah, nobody's in my report yet, but I would be able to filter by a tenant. Same thing, I can save that search. I could add those reports to my blocks of certain dashboards, give people certain permissions to see them, schedule those reports to be emailed to certain people. So that's really nice now that there is a tenant filter. And you can also in your reports have a tenant. Let's see if I go to all of this and clear. You could also have a tenant field in your report if you wanted to, like over here, tenant, and you could see what they belong to. All right. There's a couple other things that I wanted to show, and there are new roles in the new Totara 13 tenant solution. So if you look at my EClass for Learning tenant, you can set a user manager, and when you do that, you can pick who's going to be that in the tenant. And here, I'll put myself. And what that means is that tenant manager can manage, delete, add, those kind, suspend the users within the tenant. Okay. You can also have another role for managing this tenant, and that's the tenant domain manager. And same thing, you can say who's going to be that. And that person will control the content within the tenant. So they can work on the dashboard, the certifications, the programs, the courses, the course category, those types of things, and set up content, but only within their tenant. So they can't go to other tenants and do that. Yeah, so I'm just going to check and see if we have any questions right now. Okay. I'm not seeing any at the moment, so if you think of some, feel free to put them in the chat. In the meantime, I'm going to present where you can, again, my contact information if you think of questions later. And then I had one other thing I would highly recommend. If you haven't become a member of the Totara community, definitely consider joining that. It's awesome. It's free. Even if you don't have Totara yet, you can join. And under the Learn, once you are up here, there is a course catalog. And right now I'm under Totara Learn, and that's where the multi-tenancy is. And from here, there is a course on multi-tenancy. So this one, there should be one for 13 or Totara talent multi-tenancy. Okay, and then you can go to the course, and the course is free. The courses are excellent. They have a lot of hands-on things you can try. Innovative ways of delivering content, great videos that would help you. And I found that that's how I learned about the new tenant features, and it worked really good for me to go through the course. So I would highly recommend doing that if you're interested in exploring tenants. And with that, thank you so much for joining us today. And our next webinar is going to be on the new Totara 14. So we hope we see you for that as well. Thanks much. Bye-bye.